So around 6 months ago, I made a change that allowed me to find joy in so many areas of life. Before that, I was just surrounded by this kind of fake satisfaction. Things like mindlessly just scrolling on TikTok, consuming all my mental power trying to figure out how to get out of silver in League of Legends. I think I kind of just conditioned my brain to require like excessive amounts of dopamine to actually consider something fun. And I call it fake satisfaction because I never actually left those gaming sessions and those TikTok breaks like actually feeling truly whole. It just provided like a short-term boost of fun, but at the end of it, in the aftermath, it never felt good. They actually affected so many areas of my life that I just didn't even realize at the time. They kind of haunted my thoughts in a way, like they were just always in the back of my mind whenever I was doing activities that were just even completely unrelated, simply because my dopamine levels were actually at a normal level rather than like excessively overloaded. And this meant I found it super difficult to actually focus on tasks that were more of long-term benefits, that actually provided real satisfaction and gratification if you stick to them. So I just ended up not doing those tasks much. Looking back at it now, I can tell that I was addicted to it. If I said that to me back then, I honestly wouldn't believe me. But back then it was just something that I just didn't think was possible. There was no way I could be addicted. So I heard like so much information over the years about dopamine and its effects, and then also just addiction in general, to social media, to video games. I just never took any action, and I think it was just because I was like clouded in a way. My thought process was just that there's no way that I'm actually one of those people who's actually addicted. I think I kind of viewed video games and social media kind of as this like pillar that was like inseparable from my own life. It was like the pillar holding up my sanity or something. Like without video games, like what could I do? Like I'd been playing them for so long, how would I receive satisfaction if I didn't have video games? But because I knew deep down that I was actually addicted, there was this kind of sinking feeling that grew inside my chest. This feeling got bigger and bigger, and one day I decided to look at my League of Legends playtime for the year, and it tallied out to be something like 36 days, I think, for 1 year. I could be wrong. Yeah, it kind of just hit me like, imagine if I had spent this time studying Japanese. Imagine if I had spent this time learning piano. Imagine if I had spent this time, exercising, just improving myself in general. It's like all this time kind of just goes into the void. And of course, I looked at my playtime before, but I think this growing, sinking feeling I had inside of me, combined with, the logical conclusion that I'm just wasting time. That was it. I just made a definite decision to quit, and I deleted all video games I had on my computer, most of my social media. The hardest part of the whole change was actually just starting. After that, it was actually surprisingly easy. So it took me years to start because I had always just been in this state of denial. But after I got over that and I just made a definite, decisive decision just to stop, it was quite easy. Of course, I had the urge to go back on TikTok and download it real quick. And of course, I had the urge to play games again. Like, I still get those urges sometimes today. Especially because I just felt the benefits like so quickly. Like, there's no way I could go back to what I was doing before, just because simply the other side, like the side I'm on now, is just so much greener. So in my mind, there's just no way I can go back to what I was doing before. This life is just 100 times better than what I was living before. So after a few days rolled about, my body began to adjust really quickly. So I would say my biggest change is that my barrier for satisfaction has gone from like all the way up here to literally all the way down here. So what I mean by this is that things that only produced, this amount of dopamine before were just not fun to me, or it was a lot harder to find enjoyment out of those things. Whereas, things like video games, social media, where there's 50 things going on and my brain just produces so much dopamine, those were the things that were satisfying. And because I was doing those things, the things down here just weren't satisfying. So this means, the things that I used to find boring or hard to do are now literally the things I look forward to the most in every single day. They're no longer chores to me, you know. I was able to fall in love with like these passions that kind of took a side seat for so many years. Like I was doing them, but you know, every single day I need to play my League of Legends game. Or if I just take a 5-minute TikTok break, it won't be that bad. And I never knew that the difference in pleasure I received when playing games or when swiping on TikTok compared to the pleasure I receive when I'm actually fully focused and pursuing something. The difference in satisfaction from those two activities is so drastic. It's a much more wholesome and whole satisfaction. It never leaves me with a bitter aftertaste like video games and social media did. I mean, even things that I don't have as much of an interest in have just become easier now, just simply because my barrier for satisfaction is so much lower. The other thing that I noticed straight away was just that my time felt so much more plentiful. Like it was like all of a sudden I had an extra 8 hours of productivity in the day. I also didn't realize how much small pockets of time are important. Pockets of time that are in between two different things you're doing. And it might be 5, 10 minutes, 15, 20, you know? And before I would kind of think, oh, this isn't long enough to actually do anything. Well, there's nothing else to do, I will just scroll on social media. But I underestimated how much these small pockets of time break your flow, and also they add up so quick. If you spent those small pockets of time, actually just, for example, I'm learning Japanese right now. If I spent those small pockets of time just doing my Ankis then, or if I spent that small pocket of time just listening to a podcast, or watching a video that was related to what I'm trying to learn right now, it's a much better use of my time. You know, I underestimated how much those little 5-minute TikTok breaks disrupted my rhythm and took me out of my flow. They drastically reduced the amount of time I could be in a fully focused state. So I mean, now I can just focus for so much longer without interruption. So my mind has also just become clearer. There's not as much racket going on in my mind. Like no longer is my brain tugging on my jumper trying to pull me away from the task at hand. It's actually fully there, and it's like, wow, I really want to actually do this task. You know, my brain's telling me, let's do this task, let's focus on this task. This task is so fun, I just want to do it. You know, there's no more internal battles in my head to try and do tasks that I'm passionate for, you know. There's no voice in my head trying to analyze the reason why I lost League of Legends last night. It's just me and whatever I'm doing. So I mean, after making this change, I'm able to pull happiness from like so many different areas of life that I like literally just didn't know was possible before. I was able to make things I enjoyed before but was just hard to focus on into things that I could fully focus on with intense determination. And I was able to make those things into the most satisfying kind of feeling, a much more wholesome satisfaction than what video games and social media provided. So I mean, now I don't think I've ever been more satisfied